All right. Welcome to week 4. I can't believe it. We're almost halfway through. That's kind of crazy. I feel like we just got started. But we are going to do a quick check-in from last week, and then we'll get started on to module 3, which is going into movement and exercise guidelines. So this is oftentimes most one of the things that people really sign up for is to learn this and what exercise exactly should I be doing. So I hope you find this very beneficial. We're also going to be touching on osteopenia, osteoporosis, and bone density. So this should be hopefully a very informative session. Hopefully you guys have learned a bunch of this already, and what I have to offer today can supplement that or kind of get your mindset in a bigger perspective, kind of at a bird's eye view, and help you hone in on what your specific goals are. So first, let's check in. Just want to say to everyone watching the replay, I already checked in with Bonnie, but I hope everyone made it safely through Hurricane Milton and have been keeping you guys in my thoughts and prayers. And yeah, hope we're all just navigating all of these hurricanes the best we can. And glad to see you, and let me know if I can be doing anything for you guys as we go through these hurricanes. So not too much longer until hurricane season is over, thank goodness. So, okay, let's go over the homework from last week. Bonnie, I know you were able to watch the replay. So did you have a chance to fill out pages 32 and 33 or reflect on the different language that is used around aging and ageism and stereotypes from yourself, from your friends, family, your doctors, or did it totally go by the wayside with with Hurricane Milton being here?
I filled it out.
You
I
did?
filled out, yeah.
Okay, so if you want to share, were there anything that stood out to you? Like, did you have a very positive age stereotype, a more negative one, maybe neutral or both?
I have a positive. I try to stay positive. I try to exercise most every day by walking. This hurricane has thrown me off, and I've helped a friend move. So I got a lot of steps moving her up and down.
Oh,
And
wow, I bet.
I try to eat healthy. I I read my Bible every day, and I try to stay positive and not worrying about everything in the news. It's hard, but anyway, um, I hope one of my things I hope, as you know, is to get more strength in my upper arms and in my legs.
Mm-hmm.
I sat down yesterday to put my tennis shoes on after church. I was going to start working in my backyard, and I put my tennis shoes on. I didn't think I was going to get up off of that one step into my garage. So I finally, my washer's right there. So I never Jonelle, I think, anyway, I opened my washer where I could get a grip and turned around. I finally got up. I thought, this is awful.
Oh, you had
So,
a fall?
no, I was sitting down putting my tennis shoes on. I sat on the step coming into the house from the
Gotcha.
garage.
Okay, okay.
So I made that. Um, so that's all I put in that. I try to keep a positive attitude about everything, you know.
Okay. And the
Sometimes,
fact that you believe that you can increase your arm and leg strength would indicate more a positive age
yeah,
stereotype. Is
yeah.
there anyone in your life, would you say everyone in your life also has a pretty positive stereotype about aging, or is it mixed? Or anyone that stands out, maybe a certain doctor that discriminated, or some kind of negative age stereotype that was very obvious to you?
No, in fact, I get a lot of people, if they ask me my age, I'll say, I don't believe you're that old, you know. And my children keep saying, they don't want me to do this or that, and they'll say, we forget how old you are. We think you can do everything. So that's good. But I do remind them every now and then, I can't do everything, you know?
Yeah. Well, good. That's like best case scenario, right? That you and everyone around you is on the positive side. So that's really
Yeah.
good news.
I have some friends in there that are a couple years older than me in their late 80s, and I just listen and try to be encouraging, but I can tell that a couple of them are more on the neutral to negative, you know,
Okay.
but I understand their situation and all.
What about the advertisements and TV commercials and magazine, you know?
Well, I think that everything you see, you can't have wrinkles, you can't, you gotta be anti-aging, and this will make you feel younger and blah, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah. I think I've earned every one of these wrinkles, you know
that's
what
right.
so, but I do think there's a lot of that trying, and they're trying to sell a product. That's what they're trying to do. So
Yeah, absolutely.
other than that, that's what I noticed.
Cool. Cool. Great. Thanks for sharing. Have you been able to remember or think of throughout the day whenever you stand up from the chair or the couch or the bed to try to stand up without your hands?
I do, but
Yeah.
I don't do that at church. It's funny, I grabbed that pew right in front of me,
Okay.
so, but yeah, I try to. I don't always do it, but I do think about it because I know that's important.
Cool. That's awesome. You're not going to remember it every time, but as long as sometimes throughout the day, throughout the week, it's occurring to you and your you're being intentional about strengthening your legs. That's
Yeah.
really awesome. Were you able to fill out any examples on page 14 on the fall log?
Well, I am falling.
Oh, that's true. So,
I really haven't. I don't remember the last time I fell. My cat was still alive, so it's been about 3 years ago. And that
okay,
was,
that was my next question.
yeah.
Welcome, Carol.
Hello, I'm so sorry. Sometimes my brain just doesn't work.
Oh,
Hey,
no worries.
I was
We're
looking all over for the link and all over I knew I had saved a folder and I'm looking all over and where's the folder? I can't find the folder. No folder, no folder, no folder. Well, I'm in the wrong doggone email. I'm in my Proton email instead of my Hotmail. So no wonder there was no folder.
Well, I
So
am sending out Sunday reminders, and I believe I have the correct link in there now. I did notice a difference between the two links I was sending you guys. So now I have Sunday reminders scheduled. So it should be towards the top of your email for next time.
it worked for me today, yeah.
Good, good. Okay, awesome. Thanks for that feedback, Bonnie. Okay, were you able to fill out an example in the fall log on page 14?
I told you I did it. I haven't thought it's been at least 3 years.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
on
it
the
was,
fall log. I'm working on it. I have I started a list. I don't have it in the book yet, but I have a list a mile long.
Oh, that's right. You keep a note. Okay. Okay, cool. I think we will not today, because today, not next week, but maybe in the second half, definitely, we're going to walk through an example together. This is very similar if you watch the webinar to that example of how we broke down the internal, external, and behavioral risk factors. So we'll do an example of that together before our time is up. Have you been standing up without using your hands or with using less hands?
Yeah,
Awesome.
No
Good.
hands,
What's that?
no hands,
No hands. Love
hands.
no hands. Awesome. And what about your exercise goals that you set on the first 2 weeks of
Doing
this
them,
program?
doing them.
Yay! Good job. I know the storms have probably thrown a wrinkle into things. Yeah, that's been crazy timing with both of those storms and the start of our class. So, but that's all the more exciting that you're able to stick to those goals. Has anyone tried to watch a replay through school?
You're gonna help
Yes.
me get on school.
Yes, we still need to do that.
Yeah.
Carol, you were able to?
Yes.
Yay! Oh my gosh.
She's
Cool.
smarter than I am, C.
Good.
Amber.
Good to know. Okay. I'm glad that those are posting. Okay. Now we're going to move into module 3, which is everything to do with movement and specific exercise guidelines. So we're going to talk about what different kind of exercise there are, what different goals they achieve, how much you should do of what, how many, how frequently, all of that today. And we're also going to talk about osteoporosis and bone density. So before we get started, have either of you or anyone watching the replay ever set an exercise goal that you had a hard time sticking with?
Oh, yeah.
I have on
Yeah.
the street.
Yeah, I think almost everyone can probably say at some point in your life you had an exercise goal and had a hard time sticking with it. Has anyone ever been reached the point of frustration with not being able to figure out, gosh darn it, I want to do this. I keep saying I'm going to do this, and yet I'm really having a hard time implementing this new habit?
Yes.
Okay. What would you say, looking back, what were some of the barriers that were causing you to struggle with following through?
Usually my body not cooperating with what my mind wants to do.
Okay. In what sense?
Well, my body won't do it.
Okay. Okay.
Weakness, muscle weakness or pain or whatever.
Okay. Okay.
I'm good about getting up and doing my walking. But then, and I think this Ortega is gonna really help me. Cause I have something I can just follow along with, but I really do need to strengthen my arms and my legs.
Good. So yeah,
arms are
sometimes
strong.
what's that, Carol?
My arms are strong, my legs are weak.
Yeah. 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 Sometimes it's funny how one thing can come very easily to us, and then another thing we have to work at a little harder, even though they're both in the bucket of exercise. Have either of you set an exercise goal that you did stick with and you were happy with your follow through?
Yeah.
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 Okay. What were some of the things that helped you be successful?
Well, I've been walking for years, so it's kind of in my head, and I get up and I walk, But the other thing I do is Tai Chi, and I have to go to the class to do it, and that's good, because it makes me drive over there. And I think that's very helpful.
Like the class nature of it, having
Yeah.
a time with other people that you have to go to.
Yeah. In years past, I've signed up at gyms. I'm not good.
Okay.
I don't follow through with it.
That is excellent awareness. Good. Carol, any times that you noticed you were more successful?
Well, I belong to the gym, EOS, but I am not the greatest at getting out of the house, getting there, but I do get there, but not as often as I would like. But they are open 24 hours a day. So if I can't sleep and I'm just tossing and turning, I'll get out of bed at 2, 3 in the morning and go to the gym.
Wow.
So that's a good thing. But and that's something you don't have with every gym.
Mhm.
And I feel very safe going there.
Cool.
So that's a good thing. But I am successful at doing things at home with like Tai Chi and things like that with the video, putting in a DVD and working along with it. I have TheraBands at home and things like that. I'm good with doing things like that at home.
Good.
So
Cool. Sounds like you guys have already done a bit of experimenting, know some of what works, what doesn't, stuff like that. So now I'm going to ask you both to mute yourselves, and we'll hold questions until kind of a checkpoint. And that way I can check in with you guys in a little bit to see if you have questions. So are you finding it, Bonnie? Here, there we go. Okay. So with exercise, there's so many different kinds of exercise. You should walk, you should do cardio, you should worry about your health, you should worry about your bone density, you should lift weights, you should work on your balance, you should stretch, you should focus on your posture. There can be a lot of different goals with different exercise. It can be a little overwhelming with all the messages coming at you. So the first number one priority is keeping in mind our goal for exercise. So these are probably going to be different for both of you. I would guess that everyone here will at least have one goal of fall prevention, since that is what this class is about, and getting stronger. But getting stronger for what? Getting stronger can mean a lot of things. So examples, oh, you know what? I meant to share my screen here. If you guys want to follow along, we're starting on page 37. Okay, are you seeing the workbook now? On your end? Okay, cool, thanks. So we must keep in mind our goal for exercise. So fall prevention, heart health, brain health, bone density, or I just want to read a book on the couch pain-free. So what are your goals that you set at the beginning of this class? And that's going to kind of guide what kind of exercise you want to do. So I think of this in 3 different buckets. So there's physical therapy, there's exercise, and there's community-based fall prevention programs. Now, what we're doing would be a community-based fall prevention program. Under that, there's 2 other kind of subsets, I would say. You guys are both familiar with Maitland and Altamont Springs. So One Senior Place, Bonnie, I think that's where you go to Tai Chi. They have a number of different fall prevention programs. Some of them are only exercise based, and some of them are education and exercise based. So what we're doing here with our course is both education and exercise based. I really believe that education is vital. So good job for you guys for taking this class. There are others like it, and then there are some that just really are balance and strengthening classes. And And those can be really beneficial too, because normally it's like a tribe of people that are trying to get stronger and not fall. So, but we will start with physical therapy. So, just want to touch on all of the things that a physical therapist can help you with in regards to your exercise prescription, and kind of our roles. There are so many different roles as a PT that some people aren't aware exist. So when you come to me or any PT, ideally we are screening, we're looking at your vitals to make sure that you're medically stable. We're checking out your orthostatic hypotension. We're going to talk about that in a later class, but that is essentially when you stand up and your blood pressure drops really significantly and you might get lightheaded. We're looking at your sensation all throughout your body, but do you have neuropathy? Do you have numbness in your feet, especially? Your muscle strength, your balance. Functional movements would be standing up from a chair, getting out of bed, walking, stairs, use of a wheelchair if you're a wheelchair user, all of those things. Walking, your walking speed, swelling in any of your extremities, pain, your hand strength, your grip strength, your pelvic floor function, so anything related to incontinence or pain in the pelvic region, posture, floor work, learning how to stand up from a fall. And then a holistic approach would include checking for any needs with hydration, nutrition, sleep quality, mental health, getting outside regularly, ideally at least every day, socializing, vision, hearing, cognition, etc. So it's physical therapy, but a lot of my sessions, we end up talking half the session because we need to talk about vision or we need to talk about mental health. I've had a lot of people that had, have days where the grief of their diagnosis is more apparent and that no physical exercise that we do is going to help. And the priority really is talking about some of the emotional weight that's kind of tied in with that. So your physical body includes your whole body, not just exercise and movement. Okay, and then a couple other things your PT can do is equipment training and home safety, and then helping you come up with a long-term sustainable exercise program. So when I used to work with people, I would see them for what they came to me for, give them some exercises and send them on their way. And now it's like, if I don't make sure that you're going to be successful when we end together with continuing the exercises, you're going to go right back to where you started in a matter of time. So ideally, your therapist is helping you with the transition and isn't just tossing you, what's the phrase? Tossing you the wolves at the end, like, okay, physical therapy is over. Bye. Hope you do well. Good luck. Hopefully, there's a bit of a transition and weaning off so that you can be independent with your exercise plan. Let's talk about why grip strength is so important. So, grip strength has become a lot more in the forefront of a lot of people's minds. They've done a lot of research on grip strength and a lot of correlations with things that in the past they might not have. So, grip strength is a good indicator of your overall strength, your muscle mass, your bone density, and your quality of life. That is largely because it's a predictor of your functional limitations, your disability, your ability to care for yourself, your falls and frailties. So, they've also found a link between grip strength and post-surgical complications, problems associated with the hospitalization itself, cognition, and depression. So, again, the physical is not only physical, it's tied into bigger things. So we have to think holistically of the whole body. In the past, I don't think they were looking at the relation between grip strength and cognition or grip strength and depression. and more of these mental health things. But if you think about it, your hands we use our hands for everything. If someone, even gets a surgery on their dominant side and has to do everything with the non-dominant side for 6 weeks, it changes how well can you wipe yourself when you go to the bathroom? How well can you take a shower? How can you cook food? How can you eat food? So, your ability to use your hands, and I'm seeing it firsthand. I have a patient right now with Parkinson's who's very slowly losing the ability to use her hands, and it's really devastating. So, it totally makes sense that all of these things are linked together. So, one of the good things about if you do have dumbbells, the act of gripping the dumbbells, because it's a cylindrical shape that you're holding, it's a really good grip strengthener, as opposed to with TheraBands, you can kind of get away with just holding it with your fingers, your fingertips. And I have found that people who use dumbbells to do strengthening or even weight machines at the gym, because those also have those big cylindrical grips, just by default get a lot stronger hands. So that's a good way. You can squeeze balls, you can do those kind of things, stress balls. But I find just by doing your strengthening routine, especially if you do have some dumbbells and do some upper body things there, that your hands will get very strong. This also plays into, if you think about it, ability to pull on a grab bar, ability to use a cane, and arthritis can play a big role in the grip strength as well. The best thing for osteoarthritis of the hands and fingers is strengthening and stretching. So that's probably my default answer to most things is, oh, how do I fix this? Oh, strengthening. Any questions there on grip strength or anything about the role of PT? No? All right. We'll talk about posture. So posture is an interesting one because just because someone has terrible posture, they could be hunched over, they could be so far forward, they might not have any pain. So bad posture and pain do not go hand in hand. However, posture does have a big influence on your balance and your fall risk, because as you get more and more rounded forward, so there's kind of two things I'm thinking of. One is the forward head position, which is where our heads go forward like this. I have to work to combat this already because working at a computer, reading a book, our heads are just naturally drawn forward. So you really want to, it takes some conscious effort to not do this as we age. There's just a natural draw forward if we're not actively educating ourselves, doing Tai Chi, doing strengthening, and strengthening our back muscles and our neck muscles. So I say all that to say, as you go forward and as you become more reliant on looking at the ground to stabilize yourself, your sense of what is the middle and what is upright changes. So if it used to be this versus, I'm going to exaggerate for effect, but if I'm way bent over and looking at the ground, my sense of what my upright position is drastically different between those two positions. And then the more reliant I get on my vision to help me with my balance, i.e., looking at the ground every step I take to balance myself, then anytime I pull my eyes up, it's going to come with a head movement and a different focal point that's probably going to make me a little disoriented from what I'm used to. So that's why it is important. I do like to have people look ahead, look up where they're walking. So when you're in the comfort of your own home, especially if you've been there a long time, aside from periodic checks like, oh, I'm approaching the rug, just want to make sure I lift my foot high enough, or oh, I'm going to go upstairs now, going to look at the first stair to bring my foot up. But there should be certain areas, hallways, the kitchen, certain places in your home where you can walk without looking at the ground. And like Bonnie, when you go walking outside, it is natural and expected that you will look at the ground more because you're outside, especially after a hurricane. There's going to be branches and leaves everywhere, cracks in the sidewalk, little ramps up and down as you cross the street. So when you're outside or in unfamiliar settings, you will look at the ground more often. That's expected. With posture, the role of PT here, we would assess your posture in sitting, standing, laying down, driving. Really, we want to look at all of these things, all of these different positions, and look at, is it really a mobility issue? Like, has the shape of your bones changed and you don't have the ability to stand fully erect anymore? Or is it just a strengthening issue, but your bones can get there? Photos can be really helpful with this. And then another reason I am a fan of good posture is that it improves your lung expansion and the quality of your breathing. So all these little tiny micro changes add up over time. So maybe right now you can breathe fine, but just something to keep in mind in regards to posture. We've touched on quite a bit of this already, but here it is kind of all succinctly together. So when we're looking at the big different goals, are we exercising for fall prevention? Are we exercising for heart health, for brain health? And there is a lot of overlap, I will say, but when we're focusing on, I want to stop falling, or I'm not falling now and I want to keep it that way. We want to look at the difference between physical activity versus exercise. So I think I told you about a guy that was so sedentary that this was one of my patients, that when I started working with him, anything that he did was more activity than he was ever doing before. So he had quite a drastic improvement right away just from being more physically active. He wasn't necessarily strengthening, but physical activity could just be moving, cleaning the yard after Milton. This is where those tips come in, like when you go to the grocery store, park a little farther away so you have to walk a little farther. That would be an example of increased physical activity. Say that you start volunteering or you start a part-time job or something. This was impactful for me when I left my job. I used to work in a rehab where I was walking one end of the building to the other all day, every day, heavy lifting all day. When I started my business, I drive half the time. Well, that's not true. I drive probably an hour and a half or 2 a day, which is a lot more sitting than I was ever used to. And so it really took an adjustment period because that was a decrease in physical activity for me. So, and I didn't used to do as much exercise where it's concentrated exercise, like I'm going to a Tai Chi class, I'm doing the Otago exercise, I'm going to put my phone away, and for the next 25 minutes, I am going to focus on my body and strengthening. So that would be exercise, is when we're being intentional. That's our main activity. So I think that's everything there. Yeah, I was just making sure there's nothing else there. All right, the research for exercise recommendations for falls prevention, there's actually not consistent data, but there are some common denominators. So with strengthening the muscles, strengthening the bones, even brain health, like there's a lot more concrete, this is the number you should do, minutes, sets, reps, a lot more objective data. With fall prevention, it's not so cut and dry. But most of the programs, the best programs, have a combination of balance, function, and resistance training. So you're weightlifting and you're doing balance training. And then functional training would be like the sit to stand exercise that we do, or walking upstairs, or getting to and from the floor. So those bigger gross motor movements are the function component. Some evidence says to accumulate doing 3 hours a week of exercise. We've already covered this, but you only really need to do balance specific exercises if you have a balance impairment, which I think all of you probably wouldn't be here unless you did have a balance impairment. And then, or at least a concern. For exercise to be effective, it must be sustainable, meaningful, and challenging. So we've been through that. Any questions up until that point? No? Okay, let's go ahead, just so none of us fall asleep. Let's go ahead and do 10 sit to stands. Try not to use your hands, or to just use one hand. Just get some blood flowing a little bit. You don't have to go fast, just go steady. Good job, good job. Nice. Maybe take a second and do a stretch or two. Just kind of do whatever feels good to your body. Reach over. Maybe twist. Take some deep breaths. Nice. Grab a drink of water. Beautiful. All right. Okay. Now we'll get into osteoporosis and osteopenia. So these are some factors in our bone density. So the amount of calcium and vitamin D and your hormones, these can play a big factor in your bone density. These, you really want to be getting blood work. You don't want to just be taking vitamin D supplements just because. So get blood work and see what your values are before you just start supplementing everything. Then number 3, the physical stress on our body via resistance training, weight-bearing activity, and high-velocity training. So number 3 has to do with something called Wolff's Law, which is WOLFF, and it's a biomechanical principle that says that the bones adapt to the stresses that are placed on them. So if you are walking every day and you're challenging your muscles and your bones with weightlifting, and you're jogging in place, and you're walking upstairs, and you're doing all of this weight-bearing activity, your bones are going to get stronger. If you have an injury or a surgery, or you just suddenly become super lazy and just lay in bed all day, every day. Your bones will rapidly weaken because there's no stresses being placed on them anymore. So this is why I think it's dangerous to have an avoidance approach. Like I've heard of doctors saying, "Oh, you have brittle bones, so don't do XYZ anymore." And it's like, that's going to make you less active. You're stressing out the bones even less. And so it could potentially make them weaker. Now, we have to be safe first and foremost. So, the huge risk comes with big impacts from, for example, a fall. So, if you have osteoporosis and you fall, you are at a much higher risk of breaking a bone. But there is really good news, which is that you can improve your bone density by all of the stuff that we're talking about. So, just safety first, but just be cautious if a doctor is ever telling you you need to stop doing such and such. That doesn't sound reasonable. Like a reasonable example is like, hey, I would recommend that you call a friend over to change your light bulbs from now on instead of climbing up on a chair in the middle of your living room and changing it yourself. Like that's a wise decision. That's not really a big lifestyle change, but if someone says something that would cause you to drastically decrease your physical activity because of osteoporosis, it's actually the opposite. We want to maintain or increase our physical activity to then build the bone strength. So again, that's Wolff's Law, if you want to look into that. The last one is kind of a bucket of all of the other holistic kind of things that can impact your bone density, like alcohol, smoking, processed foods, soft drinks, certain long-term medications. So this could be like some hormones, some blood thinners. There's others, but if you're concerned about that, good idea to have a conversation with your doctor or pharmacist about the effect that your meds are having on your bone density. Chronic stress, that can be a big one. Good quality sleep, and then there's some potentially there's a question mark around vitamin K2 and the role that that has on bone density. So the good news is that you can improve your bone density. And we already touched on this a little bit in one of our calls, but the other good news is while bone density does play a very large role in predicting whether or not you're going to have a fracture if you fall, how you fall and the direction that you land is more predictive than your bone density, actually. So if you can tuck and roll, if you can learn some of these techniques that we're going to start learning this week and next week of how do you distribute the force instead of just landing on your hands, how do you land on your whole forearm so that you don't break your wrist? It would be much better actually to break an arm right here in the middle than to shatter right near the wrist. But with these principles, ideally you won't fracture anything. You have a 5.5 times higher risk of a hip fracture when you land sideways. Sorry, one moment. Oh, right. Okay, I was just misreading it. What I was reading and what was in my brain didn't seem to match up, but they actually do. So it's actually easier if I don't look at it. If you fall diagonally, sideways, and backwards, on the back side, diagonally, you're 5.5 more times as likely to fracture your hip than if you fall directly one direction. So meaning just sideways or just backwards or just forward. So that comes into play with a hip fracture. But then it depends too, if you fall straight forward, you might be more likely to put your hands both out straight, lock your elbows and land on a really hard force, all of that impact going through your tiny little wrists and get a wrist fracture. So that's why a lot of this training, which if you have a PT or a personal trainer that can work with you on this in person, it would be awesome if you could get some repetitions under your belt, like not just listening to a lecture about it, but actually practicing it time and time again. There's a video I will email to you guys because the last week when I showed you guys the SNL video, it got blocked off YouTube because it was copyrighted info. But I will send you guys a video interview of this older gentleman in his, I want to say 90s, that he does part of his exercise plan. He does work on a trampoline and he practices falling. So he practices dozens and hundreds, I think he said hundreds and thousands of times he has fallen, so that if he is out and about in going to the grocery store and he falls, that muscle memory is going to kick in because he knows how to fall. So something to consider is coming up with, how can I feasibly and safely work this into my exercise routine? So stay tuned for that coming up in our next couple exercise classes. And the last big risk that we think of with falls is concussion or brain injury if you hit your head. So learning to tuck and roll there. Okay, I'm gonna speed up here a little bit. What can you do about your bone density? Talk to your primary care doctor. Look at the foods that you're eating. A lot of these, like I said, the calcium, vitamin D, vitamin C, can be obtained through whole foods that are nutritious, like fruits, vegetables, healthy proteins, healthy fats, stuff like that, instead of just jumping into supplementation with a pill, because a lot of those aren't even readily absorbed and available to be used by the body. So just be careful with how much you're supplementing. I heard it put one time, I don't remember, he had a little catchphrase, but his point was, you could take all the supplements in the world, but if your day-to-day diet and your nutritional content that you're taking in is garbage, all of the supplementation in the world is not going to make up for that. So he was using a drastic example, but you are going to get the best bang for your buck by looking at the food that you're eating, and then supplementing on top of that will help. And it'll help better on top of a healthy diet, if that makes sense. So the bottom line across any diet that you look at is eat whole food, not processed food. So there's tons of fad diets. There's paleo now, there's vegetarian, there's carnivore, there's Mediterranean, there's Atkins, there's a bunch of different diets. The one caveat is if you have a metabolic dysfunction, this could be diabetes, pre-diabetes, something like that. You may need to have certain, I would definitely recommend professional advice, not only from an endocrinologist, someone who really knows metabolism, but even a nutritionist, because there are different tricks with your response to insulin, such as intermittent fasting and stuff like that. But if you don't have diabetes or pre-diabetes, then really intermittent fasting and everything is just kind of a fad. It's not necessary. And so the bottom line for everybody is whole food. So fruits and vegetables, shop around the edges of the grocery store. The less processed, the better. Even now, I just discovered that all of the flavors, if the ingredients, are you guys pretty good at reading your ingredient list before you buy food? Okay, good. Even if it says natural flavors, that is a chemical, a synthetically made chemical that they're putting into the drink or the food. So just really be careful. And that's all of the seed oils like canola oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, yeah, just educate yourself. I'm not a nutritionist. I can't make recommendations, but if it comes from a whole food, the better. So the less processed, the better. So even like almonds. I love almonds. I love almond butter. Almond milk sometimes I'll drink, but every stage is one more stage that it's processed. So if you can really stick to veggies, fruits, fish, chicken, steak, eggs, like one ingredient, the better off you'll be. Okay, Carol, I'm just seeing your message earlier there with the bone density. If you have they were looking into, does a deficit of vitamin K deficiency cause bone density? Yuka app, I love the Yuka app. Yep, I will use that as well, and that works on foods and toiletries and kind of body care, skincare products like that. So I use it for hand soap, dish soap, toothpaste, face cream, and it will tell you kind of what these harmful ingredients are. There's a lot of ingredients that are monitored differently in different countries. So we have a lot more ingredients in our things that are banned in other countries. So it will label the ingredients of green, yellow, or red as to the potential harm that they can do. And then you can go in and click on each ingredient and it can tell you, this is a carcinogen, this is an additive, this is to make it smell better, but it's harmful because whatever. So that's spelled YUKA. It's an app and you can just scan a barcode. It's awesome. Okay. This we have already covered, so I'm going to go to the next page. This is that chart I was telling you guys about with the peak vertical ground reaction force based on each of these exercises. So it's like, what the heck did you just say, Amber? That was a lot of sciencey sounding words. So basically, I don't have a little thing to draw, so I'm going to use my hand. Say that this is my foot and I'm walking, right? And we're just going to take an average person weighs 150 pounds, let's say. So as they meet the ground with their foot, the cement or the tile or whatever actually meets them with the equal force. So the ground reaction force is basically like almost like a spring. It's how much force when you walk is the ground pushing back up against you with. So when you're walking, it's actually more than your body weight. So if you look at the second line, when you're walking, the ground comes back up to meet you with 1.2 times your body weight. So if we're using 150, whoops, 150, the ground reaction force would be 180 pounds. So 150 is coming down on the ground is meeting you with 180 pounds. So if we take Wolff's Law, which is that our bones adapt to the stresses that are placed on them, then this is a good amount of stress. It's a little bit more than your body weight. That's going to impact your bones and your bone density, particularly your legs and your spine. If you are wanting to get stronger hands and wrists, then we need to do weight-bearing activities of the upper body. So that would be a wall push-up, a countertop push-up, machines, strengthening machines, weightlifting at the gym can do this. Dumbbells can do this. We need extra resistance in a weight-bearing fashion, getting onto all fours and distributing your weight across your hands and your knees can give your wrists some weight bearing. So this chart is mostly talking about bone density of the lower body and the spine. So you can look down, but lunging is good. It gives you 1.1 times your body weight in the ground reaction force, that force that's coming up from the ground to meet you. Marching in place, this was a surprise to me. Marching in place actually gives you a greater benefit to your bone density than does walking, because I guess it's a little more of a stomp as you come down, so it's a little bit harsher of a landing if you're really picking up your legs pretty high. Going up a 6-inch step will be 2.1 to 2.2 times your body weight. So this is getting over 300 pounds for a 150-pound person is coming back up to meet them. So you can start to see how that's definitely gonna be doing something there. Running is 2.6 times your body weight. Dancing is amazing, 2.7. So I have a lady who's in love with line dancing, and that's the main balance training that she actually does. And it's great for bone density. You're all weight bearing. So dancing is an awesome option. Step ups onto a 12-inch step gets you even higher. The jump takeoff versus the jump landing, both have different amounts. So just loading up, so and loading up to spring up will give you 3.5 times your body weight. And I'm scrolling down, I thought it doesn't have the jump landing. It doesn't have the jump landing, but that's interesting. It has a drop jump, so that would be if you're jumping down from a 12-inch height, which I don't think any of you are doing, but that would be 5.5 times your body weight. Forward and backward squat jump. Okay, this is similar, but this is if you're adding a forward direction, 6.3 times your body weight. So I would probably guess that landing from a jump is probably around 5 times your body weight. Heel drops are a really good one that is accessible to you guys. That would be you're standing up and you raise up onto your toes and you drop on your heels. And you raise up onto your toes and you quickly drop onto your heels. So you can do that with hand support. The idea here is that the jarring of landing on your heels forcefully is going to impact your bones in a good way. Jump squats and foot stomping. So even just stomping your feet in a sitting or standing position can be very good for your lower body bone density. You will have an impact across a greater number of bones if you're standing, but even if you're watching TV and want to stomp your feet, and that applies to your upper body too. So hitting, stomping your hands, smacking them against the couch or clapping them, that will get some bone density going through the upper body there. So I'll pause there. Any questions so far on that? Carol's good. All right. we're gonna go into, Bonnie, are you good? I couldn't tell if you were, okay. I couldn't tell if you were trying to unmute. Okay, I'm mindful of the time, so I know we started a little after the hour, so, but we're wrapping up here. So here's where we talk about the different types of exercise and the different goals. So for aerobic exercise, this is really talking about cardiovascular health, heart health. You guys can reference this. Do not try to memorize this. I want you to think of the bigger picture. So I'm actually going to have you try to not read if you can, but if it helps you to look at the words too, because you're a visual person, then go for it. But I want you to walk away with a bigger picture. So aerobic exercise is continuous, sustained exercise for 20 minutes or more. So we really don't start tapping into the good benefits on your heart muscle until we're at 20 minutes or more of a continuous exercise. This would be walking, biking, swimming, jogging, hiking. Those are more cardiovascular based. Stuff like pickleball is a little bit tough because it's not really sustained. It's like stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. So with cardiovascular, we're really thinking of walking, biking, swimming are the big ones. If you're at a gym, treadmill, elliptical, the stair stepper, any of those cardio machines. So this is with the intent of getting your heart rate up for 20 minutes or more for a sustained period of time to pump your blood more efficiently, make your heart stronger. And ideally, you would do it, I recommend 5 to 6 days a week. This is saying 3 to 7 days a week. So I do recommend a day of rest at all times, at least one day of rest. It's important for the body, but you can be doing it 6 days a week. And one other note, there's been a lot of research on high intensity interval training, HIIT, or HIIT training. You might have heard that acronym, HIIT training, which is like, it's kind of like circuit training. So it looks like strength training, but it's like there's stations and it's a high intensity. So you're going hard for a short period of time, but it's mostly strength training, but it actually does have some cardiovascular benefits. So just want to asterisk there. If you have more questions, I don't want to make it too confusing, but we can talk later about HIIT training if you're interested in that. Good bang for your buck. But it looks a little different than cardiovascular training, but it has cardiovascular benefits. Strength training, this is what we've talked about a lot because it does have such a good carryover to fall prevention. Synonyms you might have heard are resistance training, weightlifting. So this is producing a force against an external load. So this one would be only 2 to 3 days a week. And this is where you're doing 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 15, 4 sets of 20. Instead of 20 minutes, the prescription is like, we're doing repetitions of 10 bicep curls and then we're taking a break. And then we're going to do 10 push-ups and then take a break kind of thing. Power training goes into speed. So speed training is, or rather power training is producing a force against an external load, but quickly. So it's very similar to strength training, but it adds in the speed component. So that's like the difference between standing up from a chair once. Do you have the strength to stand up versus if I time you for 30 seconds, how many times can you stand up and sit down in 30 seconds? That's looking at how much power do you have. This you can see a lot. The slower that people start to walk and slower that people start to move is a decrease in power. Now, you could have a preference to move slowly about your life, but still have the ability to move quickly. So that still remains in you, but you just have a preference to move slowly versus someone that literally cannot move faster than a certain speed is a loss of power. So this is really, really, really good. This is one of the ways I really changed my practice last year was incorporating some of the stuff we did last 2 weeks ago with jogging in place and marching and quick feet. This helps your balance a ton because it helps with the reactive balance where you might be walking across a parking lot, a car whizzes by, and how fast can you jump back out of the way? Or you might catch your foot on the rug. Do you have the power and the speed to quickly catch yourself and prevent a fall? So if you don't have any power and can't move fast, then you're going to be a lot more likely to go down when you catch your foot on the rug because you can't move your foot that fast. So doing all the footwork should help with catching your balance when you stumble, when you bobble. So love those for that. I do a lot of that. Even jumping, this was really interesting in this class I took. This was one of the controversial topics that doctors would tell people with osteoporosis, you can't jump anymore. But with the safety of a physical therapist that's monitoring exercise, progressively increasing the intensity. So would I start someone jumping on day one? Absolutely not. But if I've been working with them for 2-3 months, they're strong. We are incrementally increasing the challenge to the point where they can do supported jumps. You know, first it would be walking rapidly in place, then maybe jogging in place, then maybe some hand support jumps. So it's a very gradual process. It's not just like, let's go do 500 jumping jacks together. So that would not be safe, and I do not recommend anybody that's doing that. With balance training, here's where the recommendations are a little vague. You can do as much as 1 to 7 days a week of training. Some research shows that dynamic balance training might be more beneficial than static, meaning training where you're in movement versus standing in one place. And the reason for that is most people fall while they're in motion, not when they're standing and brushing their teeth. So that might be more effective for you. It might be good. A lot of people need help with turning. They get a little disoriented when they turn. So incorporating challenges that you know are your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities, and training those up. So specifically targeting those is what I recommend. Challenging you at the limits of your balance where you feel like you need to grab something for support. So again, safety first. If you do this with a partner, you can test the limits a little bit more. You can go a little bit more outside your comfort zone, but if it's super easy, that's not going to increase your balance. So you want it to be somewhat challenging, but doable. And then stretching, this is very individual. There's a lot of research and a lot of bad opinions now about stretching. There are a lot of mixed evidence nowadays where stretching used to be like, you know, no question, everybody stretch. I say I'm a fan of stretching. If you're having pain, I would get a PT to assess you and assess what muscles are short, because you might have short quads, but your hamstring length is fine, or your hamstrings might be tight, but your quads are fine, or vice versa, or both are tight. But if you're having pain, you might benefit from some stretching because a certain muscle group might actually be short. You also might have joints that are tight. That has nothing to do really with the muscle length, but it's more with the ligament and the joint capsule and the bones. So that's why getting an individual assessment of your joint mobility and your muscles can be helpful to see, should you really spend any time on stretching? And if so, they might give you 3 stretches to focus on rather than, oh, stretch your whole body. They also, some believe that dynamic stretching might be more effective than static stretching. I'm a fan of static stretching because it feels good on my body. And so that's what I say. If you like stretching and it works well for you, keep doing it. I have had a number of overstretching injuries, so just be careful that it is never painful. Pain is our body's indicator to back off on what we're doing because we're going to get hurt. So don't overstretch. With ice and heat, again, new research has brought in mixed evidence. It used to be if you have an acute injury, ice only, and now it's mixed. There are doctors performing knee replacements, putting heat on the knee right after surgery, like same day. And then there's a lot of studies that have been done on contrast therapy with cold and hot, going back and forth between cold and hot. If you like it, great. This is, to me, trial and error. Try out the ice. If the ice feels good, great. If that does not feel good, try the heat. So usually the spine, this is not always, but a lot of people prefer heat across their low back, for example. And anything nerve related. So nerve injuries do not love cold. Other than that, muscle and bone injuries, a lot of people prefer ice. So it really kind of is up to you. If you do have any questions about like a hot sauna or a hot tub, then I would talk to your doctor. But I love heat therapy. I think it's very beneficial, but my body loves it. So do what feels good to your body. So lastly, I'll let you guys read over page 44 because I have probably said most of this already. Let me just see if there's anything I haven't said. Yeah, as far as when you guys are sticking with your goals and trying to come up with your why and why it's meaningful, why do you want to make a change? Are you being motivated by pain or is it a positive motivation? So most people have both, but a lot more people, it's human nature that we are more motivated to do things out of pain. So that means if my knee is killing me every day, you can bet I'm going to get myself to a PT. I'm going to be stretching and strengthening and working because my knee is hurting and I want it to stop hurting. Rather than a positive motivation would be like, oh, I have this trip coming up that I want to be able to play with my grandkids on the floor, or like, oh, I just want to be able to walk when I'm 90 years old. That would be moving towards a positive outcome. And a lot of times our pain carries a lot stronger charge. So it's like, oh, you have low back pain or you suddenly have vertigo. You're going to do something about it. So I think that was it there. And then, yeah, just keeping in mind, this is all experimentation. So don't get down on yourself if you do struggle with sticking with your goals. Just try something different. It's all learning. So you can't fail and it'll ebb and flow through seasons. So I will stop there. Do either of you have any questions?
No, but I do need to skedaddle.
Okay. On Thursday, we are going to be starting floor work, but on the bed. So just want to give you guys a heads up. I don't know if you guys are using mobile devices. I think, Carol, are you using your cell? Oh, you're using a laptop. I've seen you walk with a laptop.
Yes, today I'm on my cell because I am sitting in my electric bed.
Okay, so I will probably be on my floor, but I will want you guys to be on your beds. So just keep that in mind when you are logging in on Thursday, that you may want to set the phone up like on a dresser, pointed at the bed or something like that. Because we'll be getting into laying down and rolling onto our bellies and getting onto all fours and stuff like that. And I just want everyone to be really safe about that. So we're all going to start on the bed.
What about jumping rope?
Ah,
What about it?
Can we jump rope?
That would be excellent. Yes, that would be in th- in this, I did find it. So the jump takeoff is 3.5 and the landing, it looks like, is around 4.7 times your body weight. So that would be very similar to either a vertical jump or a jump squat in the way of bone density. That would be excellent for coordination, for bone density.
you can do
It gets your heart rate up, so it won't be probably 20 minutes sustained of cardiovascular exercise,
No, I know that.
but it would be excellent for bone density, for balance, it would have a little bit of impact on your heart health as well, even though it's not the 20 minutes, but coordination, agility, speed, yeah, that would be a great one.
How do I get you on my phone to be in the bed?
You have a smartphone?
It's an Android.
It's an Android? Okay. Can you pull up your email on your phone?
Yes.
So I would just open the email from your phone and then click on the Zoom link there. You may need to download Zoom on your phone.
Yes, you do.
And if it's not already there, it will prompt you, just open the email. It will prompt you to download Zoom when you try to open that link.
Okay. So I go to your link from the email, and
Mhm.
that's where I get the prompt that I need to open Zoom on my phone. Is that right?
Yep.
First, you need to download Zoom onto your phone.
Yeah, you can do it either way. If you want to go to the app store and download Zoom first, you can do it that way. And then open the email. Cool. Okay. If that's it, Bonnie, do you have a couple minutes to stay on and tackle school?
Yes, I do.
Okay, let's do that. Thank y'all for being here. And you know how to reach me. Next week, we're taking a break. So we will have off. I can't believe it's already halfway through. The other thing to think about is everyone will get a one-on-one call at some point during our 2 months together. So if you want to chat next week at the halfway point, or if you want to wait till the end and use your call at the end as we kind of part ways and make a game plan there, that's up to you. So just want to remind everyone that that's available to them.
Are we off both days next week?
Off both days. Yep, whole week off.
So after this Thursday, next week, no class.
Correct. We're meeting
Yeah.
this Thursday, the 17th, and then next week we'll skip.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording.